I'd like to welcome you to the Golf Committee meeting. And before we get into the order of business, I'd like to introduce two new members and have them give a little talk about themselves. We've got two new members to the Golf Committee. The first one is Marilyn Miller. She is a member of Deer Valley Golf Group, women's group, and she, I think, likes golf because she just got back from a trip of driving all the way to the East Coast to play in a golf tournament. So, Marilyn, you want to say a little about yourself? Just.
Hello. I've only been here for a little over 2.5 years, 2 3/4 years. I love golf, and that's all I talk about is golf. So now I'm on a committee. I don't know if that's good or bad. I've done a lot of, I came from Ohio, I did a lot of volunteer work there, so I thought this might be a good fit, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. And our second new member is Donna Richmond, and she is currently president of Pebblebrook and vice president of the Golf Council. And we brought on, and I think it's something we need to look at going forward, but they need to apply, but I think having a member of the Golf Council on the committee is good so we know what's going on both sides. So welcome, Donna.
Thank you. I'm originally from the East Coast and moved out here about 8 years ago and try to get out of here every summer, but it doesn't work. I'm not a snowbird. So again, like Marilyn, my husband and I are addicted to golf, so we used to call ourselves retail golfers because we would go play everywhere we could. But I look forward to serving on the committee and learning some things.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Paul could not be here today. I got an email this morning, and he had an accident, had to spend a little time in the hospital, so he's not going to be here, but everybody else is here, so we have a quorum. I assume you've read the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Seeing no corrections or additions, we will accept the minutes as written. We'll move into staff reports. First one is Pat.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I just have a few slides here, kind of recapping the last month or so, what's going on in golf ops. Just want to remind everybody, and all of you are experiencing it, 3 open golf courses, 4 closed, so there's some compaction out there. Seem to be staying busy with tee times up until after 3 o'clock. PAs have started this last couple weeks. Call center started this week, so those are pluses for us. Hopefully get the starter available to check people in. But one of the things that we're really challenged with right now is cart rules. We still have the COVID sticking around, and we surely understand that. But we're trying to encourage everybody to pair up as best they can. If they need a handicap flag, we ask them to go to Golf Ops and apply for that. That's done either through a ADOT placard or through a note from a physician. But the better off we are pairing up carts, the longer our course is going to be in good shape, especially during the overseeded period of the season. So just encourage everybody. And as I said down here, I need your help in enforcing these rules via group play or charter club communications. So appreciate everybody's help with that. Oop, go right ahead.
So Pat, I told you via a message that, I witnessed 4 people behind me in 3 carts, 4 people ahead of me in 3 carts, no medical flags. That was last week. Mm-hmm. So, and I overheard somebody say when they went into the pro shop just said it was fine. So are we going to really enforce any of these rules or not?
You're going to see a firmer stance once we come out of overseeding. Right now, we're still kind of working off of the summer rules. The way we handle it in the pro shop is not to get into a tit for tat at the counter. That's not the place to have that. My starters are instructed to notify me of who's breaking or not following these rules, and then I reach out and contact them and say, this is what we're trying to do. So we're getting a lot of positive things on that. Sometimes it just needs to be explained. Give them opportunities or alternatives on when and where to play, but there's still people out there that are riding by themselves.
So I can refuse to ride by myself if I'm vaccinated or unvaccinated, and the rest of my party is the other way. And so when I go up to the first tee and there's 3 carts, and the starter says, hey, by the way, you're supposed to be in 2 carts, and I say, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, of course, I wouldn't say that, right?
You wouldn't do
what's
that.
going to happen? Is somebody actually going to tell you or tell golf ops, these people are
Yes.
not abiding by the rules?
I get it every day.
And you're going to give them how many chances before you take other action?
I haven't seen the same name come across my desk yet.
That's great. But the snowbirds are all coming back now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we get through the overseeding, I think you'll see, and again, this is kind of a moving target in the sense that COVID uptick, downtick, so I'm kind of hedging a little bit on this because if tomorrow this thing goes bonkers on us, yeah, we might be looking at this and saying, we have no choice to go but to single riders. But if it continues to work its way down, we're going to say, no, we're going to ask you to pair up, follow these rules here, otherwise we might need to look at playing some other time.
Well, and I appreciate that. You're in a bad spot. Your PAs are in a bad spot
Right.
because obviously the PAs don't want to frustrate the golfers out there and make them not play because obviously we need the revenue. So I understand. But it's the crossroads of seeing that when you're in a group and your foursome is saying, hey, we're doing what we're supposed to. How come right here and right here something else is going on? And if you don't see a PA out there.
Correct.
Right? And then if we
Absolutely.
do see a PA and say, by the way, we don't know what happens at the end of the PA or if they even say anything.
Right, so this to me is a green grass effort. You know, leaders in the golf, people that are on the golf committee, golf council, my employees, my staff, all need to set the example. And when it comes to a conversation, that needs to be explained by all of us. PAs cannot be out there 10 hours a day to see this. So I need help in communicating this, but I think the big change you'll notice is when we come out of overseed. Okay?
Let's get back to Pat's report.
Okay.
If you look at the agenda, 4.04 is outstanding issues.
Okay.
And I put that on there so we can have these discussions. So let's get back to Pat's report.
Thank you. Next slide I have is just one that I'd like to put in here. This could be something sent out to your playing partners, what have you. Anytime you can use the cart path, it's awesome for the golf course, and I just encourage everybody to share that as much as possible. A couple other footnotes, 15 feet for medical flags, 30 feet for everybody else. As we all know, we shouldn't be driving carts in between a greenside bunker and the green. If getting out of your cart and pulling the flag is always a good thing. If you don't have to get out of your cart to pull the flag, that cart's probably not in the right spot. And then also, obviously, with the players' assistance, you're right, they're in a tough place right now, but we're hoping to make it easier for both sides of this equation. I want to remind everybody, we do have text notices that go out. They changed the number, but if you've already been on the frost delay texting, you've been grandfathered into it, but the new number is 844-728-0158, and that will go to your phone and it'll allow you to get a text that says frost delay, aerification, cart path only, any of those changes to normal play. Here is our final results of our first two-person best ball event we had in September. As you can see, we had a pretty good crowd. We had 88 players. That was up from the last time we held this event, which we had 64, I believe. So a lot of active golfers out there. You might recognize a few people and the payoff. And one of the things I wanted to address in this report was every once in a while I get comments like, how come you didn't pay out all your entry fee money? How come we didn't get as much as we should have? Or how come you didn't pay more places? I'm going to go back to this slide right here. You'll see that we try to pay more net than gross in all of our flights, and the reason being, everybody in that flight has a chance to win net, but not everybody has a chance to win gross. So we like to reward the low scores, but we don't like it to be gross heavy because the net is an important part of the equation here, and they're the ones that also make up the basis of the tournament, or the just of the tournament. So in doing so, I just wanted to break this out for everybody. We charged $45 for entry fees. We collected $39.60. Gift cards, which is the total of those prizes right there, if you add up all the prizes, came to $19.80. Crooked Putter put on a great lunch. They charged us that. Tee gifts, if you played, you saw that you received 2 Pro V1s with the Ryder Cup logo. It was a nice little tee gift. Breakfast snacks, special event prizes, closest with the pin, things like that, range balls, all added up to $334. So our expenses were $43.48. We ran at a deficit of a hard cost of $388. And the things that I like to point out of this is the revenue created in the pro shop. So gift cards, $19.80 was created. That's revenue going into the pro shop. Range balls of $88. Green fees were collected of $11.58, which that course, Grandview, earned $32.26 for hosting that event. So we like to do this because we're playing golf at a time when normally we don't fill up tee times, or not as likely to fill up tee times. So it's a win-win for us. And then the last line there is an optional skins game of $670, and we pay out all of our skin money too. So I think they're a great value. Always looking for feedback. We're just trying to make it a nice event. So hopefully we'll continue to grow these. But the other thing I think I handed out, turkey shoot putting, night putting. I've handed out an entry form. It's not for everybody, but it's a lot of fun. 72 people. We're going to showcase the new Pebblebrook putting green. By the way, that putting green is now twice as large as it was. We'll have a hole-in-one prize for that. You putt after dusk. We're going to have a food truck there. It's just something different, something out of the ordinary. This is also called a turkey shoot, so everybody that plays, the twosome that sign up together get a turkey, and you can either take the turkey home for the holidays or you can donate it to the food bank. So it's been a popular event, and it's just a lot of fun. Green team update, the first swing kickoff. This is the instructional program. Saturday, November 13th, it's at Stardust, which is what we consider their home course. 60 new golfers will be involved in a 5-station clinic. Kathy and Jerry Stevens do a wonderful job overseeing this program. Last time I talked to them, I believe they've got 600 people on their rosters that play sporadically, but some more regular than others. This is a clinic we had last year. We cut those sizes down due to COVID, and this was over at Echo Mesa, but the golf professionals are involved with this, and it's a free event. So it's very, very done. Very, very nice. Just want to put a plug in for our radio show. Dan Hearn, who's one of our residents who had a history in radio, is the host. It's a 15-minute show. It's on weekly. They do an encore show on Sunday. It's just a repeat of Friday. Over in the corner, I just wanted to make mention, our producer, Deb, told us that we're just about at 200 shows. So it's been on for quite a while, and it's just a good way. And I would encourage not only this committee, I would love to have everybody on this committee be on the show. Harry was on it not too long ago. Presidents of men's and ladies clubs, love to have you on. We've had the putters, both the men and the ladies putters president on. So it's just a way to promote golf in Sun City West. And then this is a slide I put in there, and we can have a discussion about this a little bit later, but this is the cup saver versus the golf ball pickup. I'm hearing some rumblings about the golfers wanting to remove the black savers. And in doing so, I try to play once a week if not more often, especially in the summer, but now it's getting less and less. But I find that the black cup saver, if it's not properly inserted correctly, yes, it'll wear out the lip. But I don't know if it's going to wear it out any more than this suction cup on the right, where people go in there and start jabbing at that too. So I think it's 6 of one, half dozen another, but we can weigh in on that, see what everybody thinks. But that's the grumblings I'm hearing right now. One that made the putt doesn't grumble, right? Yeah, it's only the one that missed the putt. Group play will begin on Tuesday, November 16th, for those that are involved in group play. We're looking at about 59 groups this year. We schedule it on a weekly basis, and everybody's been really good with this as far as the rotation and creating the sizes 16 to 40 in the groups. So that's just a little overview of, we'll do a 2-month schedule, mid-November through December, actually about a 7-week schedule. And then we'll do a 2-month January, February, March, April schedule, and get everybody on the calendar and rotate them through the golf courses. It's been a good program. Wanted to share this because we added Paul Gruza to the list of the pros that are teaching now. We started him October 1st, got his feet wet at his new position, and now he's able to teach. So you'll see him out on the driving range as well. This has been a good program for us as well. And then Ron Ripley, who plays over at Stardust quite a bit, he's involved with a couple organizations. This is one that helps dispose the U.S. flag properly, and we have a drop-off point over at Golf Ops as well as the membership department up here on R.H. Johnson campus. And that's all I've got.
Do we know if they still have them in the library? Was the library or the bowling alley?
Bowling alley still has one, as far as I know.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah.
The next would have been environmental services, golf maintenance, Todd Patty. Todd's out of town on a family emergency. We did have a walkthrough Wednesday morning, and we saw hole 14 at Trail Ridge, and that's where I play my league, and I think it's a remarkable improvement to hole 14. And I think it's going to speed up play a lot because you got to hit it in the water to go in the water. So, so with that, do you know if there's anything that Todd would have wanted, Pat?
Yeah, Todd is out of town. He's got some back with his folks. One of the discussions I had with him a few days ago was he's concerned about Deer Valley. There's a little bit of slow growth there. We had the rain when he was starting that overseeding process, and he kind of kept it off for a day or two. So there might be a chance that we might be cart path only first couple days starting out. And I'll find out when I talk to him, hopefully tomorrow, and we'll see where we are with that. And if so, we'll get that communicated out to the men's and women's groups, as well as put it out in social media and whatever we have to. But that was his concern of Deer Valley.
Thank you. Next, we have golf budget and expenses. Pete.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you for all the committee members for serving. I know some of you might be the first time you're seeing this, so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to expand on it after I complete the presentation. You'll notice this is July. I do, generally speaking, present one financials every month. The August had not been presented to the Budget and Finance, and so we don't usually publish any of those until they've been recorded into the governing board. So the revenues, first of all, for those that are new, the left side of this, of course, is our actual against the budget, variance for that, and then a prior year. And of course, generally speaking, I'll be addressing year-to-date when that is not the same. In general sequence, I usually do against budget, and then I do a brief synopsis against the prior year. I usually go from top revenues and explain some of the expense and the overall operating margin. And down here are some statisticals for our round play and the golf fees per round. So a real brief explanation, golf fees is simply our green fees. It has nothing to do with any other external revenues such as range balls, and cart rentals are in the ancillary revenues here. And obviously merchandise, food, and the pro shops are their own independent lines. So this is simply greens fees and discount cards. Down here this is a good place to reference the golf round activity. We had a positive variance of 15% against budget. Good indicator also on the golf fees amount per rounds was about 10% higher than the budget, which indicates a higher amount paid, i.e. Public play or resident green fees and guest fees and things like that. So a good start on both those indicators. Moving quickly back to the revenue side, the ancillary revenues reflecting some of the cart rentals that came from the higher round play came through, and some solid revenues in the merchandise and food. And just to be clear, counting item, but these are net of the cost of goods sold. So the revenue for a hat is negated down by the cost of the hat right within this. So you won't see it down the expense side. So overall revenues exceeded by about 54,000, so a positive start there. Expense management, favorable variance, mostly due to open positions within Todd's golf maintenance. Utilities had a nice favorable variance. For those that remember that month, there was actually cooler temperatures than the averages and a little bit of rain on several days. So when that happens, the pumps obviously are not working as hard. Repair and maintenance, just to be crystal clear, that's a very highly variable amount. We're within a nice bandwidth there against the budget, but that can be very, very high or low against the norm, as can occur within landscape maintenance. Landscape maintenance, generally speaking, the biggest item there is seed, chemical, fertilizers, aerifications, things like that. Nice positive start, but just to be, for those that are not familiar with it, the heavy drought and fires up in Oregon, where I believe somewhere we've heard like 90% of the seed is grown, and the seed crop was heavily damaged this last year. So we went to the facts and presented a fact and findings to our governing board, and they approved about a $240,000 approved extra spend for the upcoming overseed that's, as Pat referenced, is occurring in September and October. That none of that is reflected at all. So this is, good to have a positive variance, but it's highly variable. The rest of are pretty minor, so I won't go into any detail on that. So overall, positive variance on the expense is about $119,000. So out of the first month, a positive variance of $172,000. A real brief review of the prior year. This is interesting, of course, that we're down approximately 12% against prior year, but the rate per a year ago was about 10% lower, which would imply that a lot of that heavy use was in discount cards a year ago when we were just emerging out of some of the early waves of COVID. Against revenue, that showed up because despite 1,300 and less rounds, we were actually still higher in revenues. Well, was that due to rates? No, because we didn't implement any rates increases into the current year. Ancillary revenue is reflective of maybe range play, because I think that was really popular event a year ago during the closures, and then we're doing much better on the merchandise and food and beverage, primarily because of the restrictions that were on the pro shops a year ago. Pretty good expense management. We're almost neutral on cost despite, increases in the minimum wage, things like that. the only real increase was in repair and maintenance, and I remind you that could be very highly variable. So overall, the expenses were up by $32,000 versus a $12,000 gain in revenue, so a slight deficit to prior year, but almost entirely driven by the repair and maintenance variance. So that's pretty much my presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, just to clarify, Pete, on food and beverage, the 11,190, did I understand you to say that's actually the profit?
Yes, I wouldn't call it the only profit because there is labor to serve it, but
Right, but
predominantly that is net of the cost, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Pete? Thank you, Pete.
Yeah.
So the next item is we're going into new business, 4.01, policy CO3, which is the standing committees of the governing board, the golf committee. There's 4 sections to it. These were all on board docs. Does any member have any questions or concerns about policy CO3 1.4? Any questions? Well, that means no redlining to do on that one, Tim. The next is golf committee goals. And golf committee goals is a second sheet that was passed out. And it, it says what our goals are. We review, we provide recommendations, things like that. One thing I've talked about with Pat, and this was earlier when I met with Pat, one thought I had as a goal is the aspect of last year, the rounds of golf and the golf revenues through the pandemic was good because the people didn't have anything else to do, so they played golf, which is a good thing. So I think maybe one thing we should look at is how do we get these people to come back and play a round or two of golf, maybe once a week, get out and play, so they'll continue doing the golf because this is a golf community. And am I off base, or I'd like to get what other people think and if they think there's any thoughts or ideas how to do it. Tom, we'll start with you.
I agree with you, but I really don't have any ideas as to how to promote it.
Okay. Marilyn?
Same answer.
Patty?
I think the green team is doing that with the 600 members, and getting them out to play a little more often, and that'll fill up maybe the executive courses more.
Yeah, Harry, thanks. There's been several ideas tossed out in the past about doing things that get other than the pure golfers on board. There were some ideas, and I think there's actually a checklist. I'll have to look for it to see ideas. They're having like social nights at the golf shops. Let them stay open a little bit longer, maybe serve hot dogs and food like that. There's other things, getting other people to come in, golf with your spouse or something like that. So there's been a bunch of ideas, and I'll look it up and I'll show it to you.
Gary?
I think Pat and staff do a wonderful job, so I'm going to leave it up to them.
Any comments, Pat? Oh, I'm sorry, Donna?
I think what you're going to notice too is I know for Pebblebrook, we had probably 25 people that didn't come back last year because of COVID, the snowbirds, that are coming back this year. So I think that's going to help with our numbers as well.
And one thing along with that, starting November 1, the Canadian border is open, so hopefully we'll see our Canadian friends back. Comments, Pat?
As I'm sitting here thinking, as you're all are discussing this, the green team catches a lot of the beginners, but sometimes that's not where everybody falls into that category. So I'll get with Katie and we can look at our database and maybe identify a lot of these people who maybe didn't play a year ago and they played last year, and identify them, and then reach out to them and say what was the reason. And I think we can assume a few things, but what do you need to keep playing? Or are you continuing to play?
I think that's a great idea.
And we can just kind of,
Let's use it.
right, and go from there and just see if there's something that we're missing from an opportunity to help them play.
There's another idea, too. We've got outside players that come in, and we don't have any way to capture the data of who they are, where they come from, or anything like that. And I don't know Pat's heard me say this before, but there should be just a simple little form to fill out, like drop a business card in a thing with their name, phone number if they want to put it on our email, and we could have some list where we could contact these people with specials and offers and that sort of thing.
So we do, to Tim's point, we do two things. One is we do have a public player card. If somebody is a regular player, they have the ability to get a laminated card, and we put it in our database, and they can go online and book a tee time, but they're restricted to the 4 days in advance. So that's the reoccurring golfer, right? The one that lives in Surprise or Portobello, what have you. To Tim's point, yes, we need to do a better job of capturing that onesie, twosie at the pro shop and communicate with them. Absolutely.
So, Pat, who would put that together? Would you do that, or would Katie do that, or one of your golf ops people?
Yeah, we would do that joint venture with IT.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other,
Yeah,
Tom?
one comment on that. I think part of what we see was during COVID, most all of the other clubs were shut down.
Yes.
And now we're competing back against with them.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly how you do that, but I think that's where we're going to see the drop off of the people that regularly did it.
Well,
Because
and
now
one
the
of my
card
thoughts
clubs
was
are
hopefully
going,
they enjoyed it,
right.
and maybe they'll want to come
Yeah.
back.
And if we can
once a
identify
week.
who those are, then maybe we can incentivize them some way. You know,
Right.
give a discount rate at a certain time of the day or something or, anything that you can do there.
You know, one of the thoughts going forward, and these are discussions that we have to have internally, but new residents, how are we capturing these new residents? And maybe there's an opportunity to give them let's say a Coyote card for 30 days or 60 days, and just get them to get their feet wet and create that relationship with a group or a chartered club and get them into a habit of playing. And then once that expiration of that card goes away, they're going to say, what? I've got to go buy one of these cards. And as we know, those that have those cards tend to be very active and loyal players here. So I think there's some things that we can still do to create some interest there.
Okay. Any comments from the audience? Yes. I need you to go over to the microphone and, yeah, and give your rec number. Yep. Go. Yeah.
Pat, can you hear me? Yes. Other than Grandview Golf Course, how well-known are the other courses to the outside people? Because I don't see anybody I see very few people playing on the other courses. Most all of them play at Grandview.
Deer Valley has a great following.
Okay.
If I had to rank the courses as far as outside play, just off the top of my head, typically Grandview, Deer Valley. Pebble Brook has a following because it's
Okay.
pretty accessible from the outside. Desert Trails has a big following from the Grand area.
Okay.
Portobello really hits Deer Valley. In fact, somebody told me they call it Portobello West or something. Deer Valley's Portobello West. Yeah. So there's a lot of activity. Grandview has the largest cart fleet, so we're able to service the outside player a little better, more consistently over there. So our challenge is, do we want to fill those tee times with outside play? Absolutely. But sometimes we're limited because we can't give them a golf cart.
Okay.
So, but Grandview is a very active place from Sun City Grand. We get a lot of play over there.
It's too expensive to make more golf carts available?
There's a cost, of course, but then we only have limited space to store them at night.
Okay.
And just to share with everybody, last night we had a cart stolen, and it was at Grandview.
Oh, okay.
And they found it at the QT on Grand. And they caught the person and arrested them, and so we're dealing with that.
Okay.
And it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while we get that activity. But Grandview, as you know, Paul, is a busy place for some outside play.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And Paul, would you give your rec number so we have it recorded?
Oh, okay. Who do I tell? Oh, say her?
Yeah,
71324.
thank you.
Excuse me, Harry, so do we want to write a goal around the capturing contact information from outside players?
Committee, think we should do that as a goal?
I do.
I see consensus to do that, Tim.
Okay.
Okay, 4.03, golf policy review. There's about 10, 11 policies. A lot of major revisions were done last year on the policies.
That's right.
But I think we need to open it. Hopefully, everybody's read it. And if anybody's got a policy they'd like to review or have a discussion on, please bring it up now.
I would, with your blessing, I'd like to maybe chime in on the first one. This policy, first of all, there's probably 1,100, 1,200 discount cards that, are purchased at any given time. So we get a refund request, maybe one a week, at the high end, 3 a month, something like that. So most of this policy works very well, but what we did find was, first of all, defining it did very well. For those that are new or don't know, a refund request for just a straight-up refund is only honored due to the death of the cardholder or, a physical ailment documented by a physician's order, and that seems to be working very well. If you could slide it down a little bit, where we get into a little bit of confusion is in, if you could even go further, Diana. Even further, it's upgrade, okay. So if you read this, it'll say, request for an upgrade is accomplished by submitting the request form. Then we calculate how much you would get a refund following the same criteria I just mentioned. And the 5-second version of that is, it's not a harsh policy, but the refund request is intended to be somewhat, you don't want that to happen a lot, or we'd have people just moving in and out of cards all over the time. So if you request a refund, it is calculated by how much you paid for the card against how much usage you had at the resident rate. And so that can add up very quickly when, if you're used to paying $15, $20 on a discount card like Kachina Coyote, and suddenly the refund is calculated at $30, $35 on the resident rate, much of that's going to evaporate very quickly. So what happens is, this is good. We want people to upgrade. We want people to say, I'm moving from a casual Coyote to something as grandiose as Unlimited or Kachina. This is good. We strongly encourage it. But what happens is it gets a little confusing for people, is that we take the refund and then say, how much are you going to use, and then calculate the variance against how much you owe. I would strongly, the recommendation of talking with Pat, Riley, the people in membership who do 99% of the refund cards or discount cards, we'd really like to simplify it. And the proposal we would have is follow the same refund, just clear out your discount card if you're asking for an upgrade. And then you buy your upgrade card, Kachina or Unlimited, and have a new start date. Because this I swear we spend more time trying to explain how much you get on your refund, that's the first part of it, and then how much you're going to apply, and when is the start date. It just causes a lot of confusion. And it can.
Withdraw.
I would say you can still say that you need to ask for a refund and follow the refund policy. We will clear it out and give you your refund back if you have any. And now if you're asking for a higher level card, just start with a new price, roughly $600 or so for a Kachina, like $3,000 if you move up into an unlimited. Not the variants, just start a new card. You look confused, Tim, so.
I am. When you say clear it out, what do you mean? I'll give you an example. On January 1, I buy a Coyote card.
Right.
Okay, by April 1, I think a Coyote, or a Kachina card would be better.
Right.
Okay, walk me through your.
Okay, so you request it, first of all, submit a request form. We're going to just calculate your refund based as if you died
Right.
or if you had a medical condition.
Right?
You might get some money back, you might not. It's just, we'll clear it out. And in the past, we would say, okay, now it's $600 or so more, and you're starting here, and all these people get confused.
Okay, so
And
you're just
so-
going to basically refund the card they bought and they buy a whole new card.
Start with the new
at whatever
start date,
level.
yeah, the real, yeah.
Right, with the
yeah.
new start date, yeah.
It
Okay,
just
I get it.
seems so much easier. No, I wanted to get your temperament for this. I didn't come here ready to redline it, but it could be accomplished, Harry, with a relatively simple elimination of that remaining amount, scratch all of that out, and just say, a new card will be issued with a new effective date.
So I'll go all around real quickly. Tom, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that. It makes it a lot simpler, I'm sure.
Marilyn?
I would also be in agreement. It makes sense.
I agree.
I agree.
Definitely.
I agree.
So I think
I'll draft some up for the next
draft
meeting.
it up
Yeah,
and
sure.
we'll have to bring it to the board, but that'll be a red line item.
Yeah, timing should work well because you guys will meet before workshop next month and, or I take that back. Bill, you're better with this, I don't know. Do we have the ability to redline it right here? I mean, anybody know the protocols? I would think not. Anyway, we don't get a lot of these.
The
Okay.
president said we do, so.
I will say then, to reiterate, the remaining amount on there will be scratched out and the statement will be, who's the secretary? Is that you, Tim?
I am, yeah.
The, a new card will be issued at the applicable rate with a new start date, new effective date.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Are there any other policies, Tom?
One question on, while we're on cards here. I believe the rec center, because of the COVID and all that, extended all the, because of the closures, they extended the cards a month. And I really don't know if people realize that. I mean, I forgot all about it, then I got my renewal notice, and I went, oh, yeah, okay, I'm not, I don't have to renew this now till November instead of October. And I think something, just a little publicity. Good news is, let everybody know.
Any other, Pete?
I was just going to say, that was very early days of COVID, so I'm guessing that all of those have played out. But I heartily agree with you that that publicity would be, I think it was the right thing to do.
That was like March.
Yeah, it was, I believe. And so most everybody's hit their renewal and had the extension.
Thank you. Marilyn?
I'll just make one comment, because there were a lot of good comments about that, because they were really happy that it was extended, because of, people didn't think it was going to be. And so that was just really nice to hear the good comments.
Okay. Do we have any other policies that need to be addressed? Tom?
Just real quick, G2, I thought I brought this up last year, but I guess it wasn't added in there. It's limited to high school golf teams, and I think it ought to be either all schools or high school and college. I know we had Ottawa University here looking at one time, and I think, Pat should have the ability to work with those. So I would just suggest either all schools or high school and college.
Comments, Pat?
I think that's, it's very gracious for us to do that, and I appreciate you saying that. It wasn't that long ago that we didn't have any high school teams at all playing here, and before Ottawa was in the surprise community, we don't actually let them play, we let them practice, and we give them a discount on the range balls. So, speaking of organized golf like that, I look at it from the standpoint of those kids have parents, and those parents might be looking for a place to retire in the not-so-distant future, and if they get exposed to our great community here, that might be a way to get some additional residents. So I think it's something very, very nice to do, so thank you.
Pat, wasn't there some issue last year when we discussed this about the college teams? And I can't remember if it was a liability issue or they wanted us to schedule certain times or something.
So Ottawa has a pretty dynamic group there. It's usually around 20 men and women playing. And we didn't feel comfortable allowing them to play, especially, as you know, our challenges are our busiest time of the year, are the shortest days of the year as well. So we allow them to practice at a reduced rate. If they play, they're paying, and it's on their own. But we had to break them up. We said you can't come out as a 10-some or 12 players. You got to come in small pods, and they've been very good about that. So that was the challenge that we saw from our end, and they've been really good in respecting that.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? Yeah.
Are we going to do anything to improve the rule enforcement on the golf courses? I'm referring in particular to the incident that happened a little while ago where there was 5 players, teenagers, who rented 3 golf carts with only 2 sets of clubs, and the starter allowed them to play. And one guy had shorts that were hot pants. Now, I know we have rules about how many players. I know we have rules about you got to be, and none of them were 18 years old to rent a golf cart. So, and then they wrecked the golf cart. Did you hear about that incident?
I heard about the wreck, yeah.
Well, it turns out they had 2 sets of clubs with 5 players. I asked the starter, well, they only got 2 sets of clubs. And the starter said, well, they said they had clubs. I mean, look out the window, you can see they don't have clubs.
So I believe that happened before our PAs came aboard, so
Oh,
Paul.
yeah, that was before the PAs,
Yeah,
right?
So as you know, there's 100 acres of turf out there, and the PAs bring a lot to the table by being able to manage that, because the only other person involved in that is the starter.
Yeah, my point was the starter should have never allowed them to play.
Correct, and I feel very comfortable in saying that if they would have known that in the onset, they wouldn't have.
I seriously doubt that with this starter.
Okay.
Because this particular starter allows a lot of the rules to be broken.
Well,
And
then-
I've seen it in the past.
Well, then you and I will have a discussion after this meeting, okay?
Okay.
But typically, that's the way, and I think it's important to say that a lot of these infractions need to be reported by the players out on the golf course so that we can deal with that. So anytime you see something like that, please bring it to us, because we're holding our residents to that standard. We hold the outside player to that standard as well.
Well, I was taking a video of these players because I knew they weren't any good.
Yeah,
They're up to no good. They were driving around like crazy.
right?
So I took a video of them on the 8th hole, and they saw me taking the video. They were over there saying F you and giving me the finger and jumping up and down on the green, but nothing's done about it. So
All right.
I don't see the point,
Right.
You need somebody out there to enforce the rules.
I
And
agree.
you need the starters to enforce the rules.
Yeah, and for speaking for the starters, we've got a bunch of very good starters that would. We'll talk about who that might be, okay?
Yeah, because you do have good starters.
We do.
So you have some very good starters.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you. Patty?
I'm going to defend the starters, because a lot of times, depending on where the clubhouse is and where the people get together on their golf carts, they have no idea that there's a 5-some going on out there or a 6-some going on out there. I've seen it, I've seen the 4 golf carts. I'm sure the starters have no idea, there's nothing they can do. They may not be able to see them on the number 1 hole, there are cameras, but by that time, they may not notice because they're checking people in.
Okay, any other comments about the golf policies? Do we want to, what Tom brought up, do a red line and put in colleges also? Is everybody in agreement, consensus? Okay, be another red line. Are there any other policies that need to be reviewed? I take that as consensus. We'll forward those two, and that'll be our policies for the year. The last item, 4.04, is outstanding issues. And I've had a couple calls, which I've discussed with Pat, so everybody on the committee knows that if I get a call, I'm not going to blindside Pat. Pat's going to get to know about it. And I guess, first of all, Gary, and has your issues been resolved with Pat?
Yes.
Okay. And Tom had an issue, and I've sent it to Pat.
Okay.
Go ahead,
I played last Tuesday, and we had the storms that came in. And I was at Desert Trails, and on the 9th hole, when the second bolt of lightning came down, my group decided it was time to quit, which, is our prerogative to do. But it got me thinking, I know we don't have a lot of storms here. I come from the Midwest where we do have a lot of them. We don't have any lightning procedure for the course to get closed because of lightning that I'm aware of, do we? And have we looked into this? I think there's a fair amount of liability
There is.
for the whole community.
So when the PAs are employed, we have air horns that are on their carts. When they're not there, it kind of falls on the player. Lightning comes up. My experience with lightning detection systems is such that I wasn't involved with them, but there were courses involved with them where that detection didn't go off and lightning was struck at that golf course and somebody died. And they couldn't use that as, hey, our system didn't go off, it's still a responsibility. So there was a liability issue there. And so we have found over the years that those aren't really the best way to go. So notifying the golfer, PA, or through the staff, making announcements when they're not there is the only thing that we have available at this time. I'd like to hear some suggestions there.
Well, cell phones have come a long way. I mean, you can look on your phone, it'll tell you that there's been a lightning strike within 7 miles of you or something like this. As you know, I do a lot of officiating of golf tournaments, and every tournament I've ever done always has, if there's weather coming, they have some kind of a policy for stopping play and starting play. And I mean, the players on the course, it's like, you don't really want to quit because, it's kind of like everybody looks at each other, are you going to quit? I'm going to quit, blah, blah. If you're playing in a group or on a Wednesday where you're competing, but I think it needs to come out of a central place, whether it's golf ops when we have bad weather, that somebody makes the call to the starters and say, I think we better close, or I don't see a starter, and I'm not sure I see a PA having the guts to go ahead and blow the horn on their own.
That'll come, the PAs respond from the course manager and the starter, but we do have that text where we can maybe use that. That comes out of Todd's department. He's the one that writes those texts because he's the one that makes that call. So maybe we can incorporate that as well. Okay?
Okay, yeah, I
that
just
makes
think
sense.
it's something we need to look at.
Very good.
Just so
Thanks.
you know, Tom, you can tell them to follow me because I've been hit by lightning. And I'll guarantee you, I'm gone.
Well, I have some friends I know that have been hit.
We were playing at Pebblebrook, I think it's about 5 weeks ago now, and you could see there was lightning off in the east. And the starter told us, he was looking at the radar on his thing, he says, if you boys go out, you're going at your own risk. So he did he did tell us. I don't remember which starter it was, but we all went out and played anyway. It never came anywhere near us. But the other thing, those lightning triggers can detect lightning 10 miles away when it might not even be a threat to where you are.
Okay, any other comments under outstanding issues? I think if we, as on the board, if we have somebody talking to us, has an objection, doing a little bitching, and you think it's worthy, call Pat, because Pat's very good at answering those. One of them that we had, as I told Pat, I relayed the comments that were made, and the comments were kind of about how many cookies were in the sack. And all I told Pat is, if that's what they've got to bitch about, they're going to bitch.
Now, Harry, that's a real thing.
And
It's a real thing.
that
The size of the
you're doing
cookies,
a real good job of running the golf courses. Thank you, Pat.
the size of the cookies have decreased. And it's all economics, because the dough costs more, so they said, instead of cutting down the number of cookies, we'll just make them smaller. Am I right or am I not?
Okay,
Harry, I have one comment for outstanding issue and something that the committee should maybe work on is pace of play. I think it needs to be posted at all the golf courses, whether it's regulation or whether it's executive. I have Deer Valley Men's Club, thanks to Mr. Hurley. We have these little laminated cards that we put in every bag. And according to the Arizona Golf Association, if you're playing from the white tees and you're starting on hole number 1, you should be done in 3 hours and 48 minutes. Number 1 should take 12 minutes, number 2 should take 7 minutes, number 3 should take 13 minutes. So this is what we're going by at Deer Valley. I do a time analysis every week. We post it out online, and if there's a gap between one group and another group, like we had 35 minutes between a threesome and a foursome, they receive a letter from the president. But I think some of these things need to be posted, because I don't see it anywhere at any of the golf courses. Now, I understand that it maybe not going to maintain it at 348, but you have to give the foursome or the threesome some idea how long it should be taking out there in the golf course.
So we do have all 7 of our courses time-barred. The AGA did it. They should be posted at each of our golf courses. If they're not, we'll do that. 3:48 seems awfully fast at Deer Valley. I thought it was like 4:05. Right. So that is available, and this is, opens up another opportunity down the road, because through the time par that the AGA did for us, it brings to light a couple things. The 8 and 7 alternate tee time might not be ideal for us, because some of the par 3s, and I'll use Echo Mesa for example, there's 4 par 3s that take 9 minutes due to the time par to play. And if you're loading that freeway at 8 and 7 minutes, and it takes 9 minutes to play 4 of those holes, and we all know which 4 holes those are, you know that's where the backup is. So my thinking is maybe that would be another exercise to go through and see if maybe 9 minutes or 10 minutes might be the tee time intervals at certain times of the day. Because I think one of our challenges is, and one of the attitudes is, let's play early in the morning so we can get around in a reasonable time. But if you knew that you were only going to take 3 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes to play Echo Mesa, whether you teed off at 8 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if you knew that that was there because we were set up to succeed, that might change some people's habits. And now we've lengthened the day, and when we lengthen the day, we lengthen the revenue window, and revenue would be a little bit more. But if those aren't posted at the golf courses, they sure should be. All our PAs have those, and they also have a grid that we extrapolate all that information and say if we catch somebody on 14 green and we know when they teed off, we can tell them where they are in that system, and they're either ahead or behind, and we can confirm that. So that's how we work the PAs. So, yeah, that's all good information, absolutely.
Okay,
I have a comment, outstanding issue comment. Okay.
On that. I played last week with a gal. On one hole, she had a 15. Another hole, she had a 10. Hit a wrong ball, got stuck in a sand trap. How do you can't catch up.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
what you do, well, I'll leave it up to Pat.
No, I was
know
just
what I do.
wondering, how do you, because the rest of us weren't in those same situations, but what do you do?
Was this a ladies' event?
It was one of our,
Tuesday days? Okay. So that's where I would encourage to have that discussion on how to handle those things for that day's play. You know, if it's a true stroke play,
Yeah.
how to handle that. We usually use double par, something of that nature, but the handicap system allows for that, where you can pick up and take a maximum of net double bogey. So from a handicap perspective, you're taken care of. From a tournament perspective, that's where you need to come together as a group on Tuesday or
Yeah.
Wednesdays and say, yeah, 15 doesn't do anybody any good,
no, it's
you know?
pretty crazy.
Yeah,
But she got stuck in a sand trap, but, she could have just taken her penalty, dropped it, and gone on.
Right.
But she didn't, she just kept hitting. I think six shots in the sand. I'm like, yeah, I know, but
well,
she,
you drop out, yeah, for two
but
shots.
she didn't use it, so.
Right. I would encourage a discussion with the officers there.
Good idea, thanks.
Okay,
I think part of what I see is with the players' assistants, they don't feel like they have the power to tell people to move along, or, I noticed, because like on the Tuesday groups, I'd asked the PAs, get the girls moving if there's a gap between, and we gave them permission to be a little more forceful if they had to, but I think part of the problem is they're just so nice to everybody. So, I mean, what do we do about that?
So PAs have been involved, at least from my perspective. We started that in 2012. And it's starting out, one of the things that we tried to do, and it was driven in a large part by, as you know, the men's club doesn't have PAs out there, so they're self-policing themselves, which is good to hear what Patty's doing from a pace of play standpoint, because you don't have anybody out there. And if you did have a shotgun out there, what's the PA going to do anyway? Because pick up and move, you can't. It's your own group, right? You're playing for whatever. But for the ladies, for the longest time, there was two sides of that coin. One, don't say anything to our ladies. You do not say a word to our ladies. And the other ones were just like what you were saying. We need to drive the message home. So I appreciate that. And yeah, we can be a little bit more.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, we're not, I don't want to say afraid. I think they don't want to cause more heartache to the group than necessary, so they feel responsible there. But, yeah, green light's always good, sure.
okay, I think we've addressed 5.01 pretty well. Is there any other comments, Tim?
I've got one for outstanding issues. Pat, do you know anything about fling golf?
Let me ask you, is that the one where you throw it sideways?
Yes, with like a lacrosse stick?
Yeah, we've got one somewhere.
Do we?
Diana, they've been caught.
Oh, okay. Shannon?
You brought it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can throw it about 100 yards.
So would we have any objection to letting our players do that? It's called fling golf, and it's like a lacrosse stick where you actually throw the ball, and you can putt with it, and you can do little underhand throws and things like that. It just looks kind of cool. I just wondered if.
Let me find it, I've got it, I'll let you.
Sorry.
Let me find it and I'll let you use it.
Okay.
Do I have any problems with it? I think I'd like to see it in action from a 9-hole or 5-hole standpoint, as long as it doesn't do any damage to the greens or the hole or anything like that. Doesn't slow up play. You know, some of the things like soccer out there.
Right.
Kick golf.
Foot golf? Yeah.
Yeah, some of that stuff really doesn't jive with who we are, from my perspective. I don't think we're there yet. We don't need it, if that sounds bad, but we're not there yet, but we can look into this, sure.
I just saw it and I thought it was kind of cool. I thought I'd ask you about it.
There is one other issue Pat had brought up earlier, and he asked for discussion from us, and that's on the black on the holes, or you pull it out. So I guess if anybody's got any thoughts, now's the time to give them to Pat, you know, for pulling the flag stick out with the ball connected to it, but the damage that it's doing to the golf hole.
It's time for them to go. I mean, the damage is unmistakable. And when we have everybody come back, it's just going to get even worse. I went out, I was the third group out on Friday, when we play on Friday. And this was at Pebblebrook, and you could tell that the hole was not as crisp as when they cut it, after 3 groups. So. And you're sure it was a fresh hole that day? Mm-hmm.
Other comments?
I like it. I don't know that it's, again, don't know for sure how to say that it's damaging the hole or not. I despise the little cups on the bottom because that just really puts a dent in the side of the hole.
So let me ask, do you see people damaging the holes with them?
Sure.
You do? You've been in like a group and said, oh,
They just
okay.
can't seem to get it in the hole straight, you
Yeah,
have to
I
pick it
just-
up straight, put it down.
That,
And
or
if
they
you're-
violently yank it out so
Well,
that they
'cause
can.
they let the ball
So the
slide.
ball, yeah. So, yeah, we have. And I've told them that, hey, take it easy on the hole, so.
Well, wasn't it originally put there because of COVID?
Correct.
So
Less touching.
When they
we all
took,
touch the flag to pull it out, so what's the difference? I mean, it's not like we're stopping the flag pulling anymore.
I'd rather go back to the noodles, to tell you the truth.
So obviously Todd's environment, and we'll give him the feedback and get his take on it too.
Any comments from the audience on this issue?
I agree with them.
Okay?
Thanks, Bernie.
I like it, and I haven't seen anybody damage a hole with it.
I also agree with Tim. You know, I've witnessed, you know, I understand when people put it in to pick it up. Those marks are usually distinctly rounding the hole differently. I mean, you can repair them easier, but if you look at all the holes, they're all the way around where they're beat up. They're just not sharp anymore, and I know it's because of that myself, so I agree.
Okay.
If I remember right, at the last meeting, Todd said something about he wanted to wait till we had the overseed, that he thought it was more of the Bermuda grass than it would be with the overseed rye.
That's a good point, because he did say that, and
Yeah.
maybe it is because of Bermuda. When, maybe we should wait until we see the overseeded rye.
Okay.
Maybe we could ask them to take them out in one course, so we would have a control versus the rest of the holes. I'll volunteer to rally.
At the last meeting, I mentioned I went out at the 6 o'clock tee time, or 6:07, or whatever time it was. First group out, they were already rough. It was because of the Bermuda. This time of the Bermuda is really,
Are there any more comments from the committee? Then I'll open it to comments from the audience. Please go to the microphone and give your rec number at the same time. Any comments? Any comments from remote? No comments? Well, with that, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.